How to store freshly baked bread. You can easily store your baguettes, bowls and bread without any safety equipment by using what you already have in your kitchen. Learn more about how to store freshly baked bread for yourself. Freshly baked bread is store-bought or homemade bread that a baker has recently made. At the end of the baking process, the dough should be warm and usually raw on the outside and yeast on the inside, although this will depend on the type of bread. You can leave most freshly baked bread at room temperature for a few days with minimal risk of mold or stalling. Still, if you want to make sure it stays fresh, it's best to start with a little more conservative bread. Some loaves are longer lasting than others. Some artisan bread recipes require ingredients that will slow down the stalling process. Check how long your particular type of bread should last to determine how long you can safely leave it at room temperature. It is important to keep the bread fresh if you intend to use it permanently. Try these simple tips for long-term storage. Avoid refrigeration. Refrigerating bread does not help extend its shelf life. If anything, it speeds up the stalling process. This is because your refrigerator will evaporate the moisture in your bread. As a result, the inside of the bread will become dry, stale and difficult to chew. Alternatively, place fresh bread in the freezer. Freeze the bread. For the longest possible storage, freezing the bread is the only way. You can store whole loaves or individual slices in a freezer bag for up to 2 months. Unlike your refrigerator, your freezer will trap all the moisture in the bread. When you defrost it and reheat it, whether it's in a Dutch oven, toaster, or something else entirely, it will retain the same crispy crust and soft interior as it did in the freezer the first time. Only make bread crumbs when necessary. Once you open the bread, the open inside begins to release moisture. If you keep the whole loaf of bread until you are ready to serve the individual slices, you can store it longer. Once you cut it, store the bread in an airtight or nearby airtight container to mimic the environment in which the breadcrumbs still seal the inside. Press the cut sides together. Although it may be better to keep whole bread safe for storage, it is often not practical. When you take your bread to the cutting board, try to cut it in the middle instead of the ends. That way, you can press both sides of the cut bread together once you cut your knead in the middle. By doing this, you will be able to keep more moisture inside the bread. Put stale bread to good use. Sometimes, you can't avoid the stale bread. In that case, you can use the leftovers. Bread crumbs, croutons and stuffing, in particular, are popular options for you to make good use of your stale bread. Use a box of bread. By placing the loaves in a loaf of bread, you can prevent them from drying out too quickly. Bread cans are halfway between wrapping the bread tightly and leaving it open at room temperature. They are semi-sealed, dry place to keep bread fresh, but they let some air in. Wrap the bread. If you reduce air circulation by wrapping your bread, you can prevent it from drying out. Although linen bread bags and paper bags are potential options, they are not as proud of the level of protection as tightly wrapped aluminum foil or sealed plastic bags. Store bread wrapped in plastic wrap for the safest option possible. If you like this video, please subscribe the channel, press bell icon for more informative videos.